Hi everyone. I wanted to do just a short video today to talk about transmissions a little bit more, and especially the final drive ratio with the Ford Maverick. Now, I have previously talked about this subject, but I have seen some great videos from Engineering Explained that really demonstrate what a final drive ratio change can actually do to a vehicle's performance with some real-world testing. So I highly encourage you to check that out, and I'll include a couple of links down here in the description. Now, besides that, I also wanted to compare the gearing with my mountain bike. I have a Specialized Rockhopper mountain bike that I've had since like 2011, and I like to go out for bike rides every so often, at least in the neighborhood. And so today was one of those days. I just got back a little while ago, and I decided to do some tests to compare how torque versus speed ends up working out with the transmission gears of the bicycle, the different sprockets. So I tried first gear and second gear, for example, and when I put my foot into it, literally with the bike pedal, the front wheel went up, not high, but it was very jarring. I even tried to put my weight into the front handlebars to try to see, okay, if I put more weight into the front tire with the handlebars, is this going to hold it down more? Is it going to still pop up? But I put my foot into it on the pedal, and again, the front tire popped up, not very far, but it's just amazing with that torque with both first gear especially, and then even to a certain extent with second gear on the bicycle. In contrast, I tried putting it into a higher gear, roughly one of the middle gears, and I could hear the rubber of the back tire kind of struggling for grip, making kind of a, it's hard to explain, but sort of that grabbing rubber sound on the road. If you ride a bicycle on the road and you put a lot of torque to the wheel, you can hear that certain almost like growling sound. So I could hear that, but the front tire did not pop up, but it was definitely accelerating me. And then I tried the highest gear. I happen to have 24 speeds with this bike, and with the highest gear I could put my entire weight on the pedal, and I would start accelerating some, but it was very gradual. So to kind of recap, in first and second gear, the front tire would pop up and then the acceleration was basically done. So I would just start and then that's it. With the middle gear, I could be accelerating. There was no jarring front tire lifting up and slamming back down like there was in first and second gear. It was actually quite jarring. But with that middle gear, it was kind of a balance, go figure, being in the middle. And so I was getting some good acceleration, a fair amount of torque, but not anything dramatic per se. In top gear, I was really putting my weight into it, and the acceleration was extremely gradual, just barely noticeable, I would say. But all of this was happening at a moderate speed. I wasn't going fast when I did that test. I wanted to test it at a relatively slow speed because I had tested first and second gear and that middle gear from essentially a standstill. So with that, what's my point to all of this? Well, again, if you check out those videos from Engineering Explained, it will really paint a picture of what my point is here. But all this to say, if you want to be thrown back in your seat, or depending on your suspension and the type of engine and transmission you have, there's some vehicles out there that will actually start to lift up the front end a little bit. Well, if you're looking for a lot of drama, a lot of action, something exciting that throwing you back in the seat, even if it's just for a moment, then you want that extra torque, which of course is going to be beneficial for towing or going up steep hills, anything that takes a lot of extra torque. You want those lower gears, that more aggressive, if you will, final drive ratio that gives you an overall lower gearing ratio. But if you want something that's more focused toward just everyday driving, that's where, of course, you're going to want to have one of those middle gears if you want, as I demonstrated with the bicycle. Same kind of thing applies to an automobile. But if you're wanting to just cruise on the highway and not be turning over very many for the RPM, if you want to call that turning over. But anyway, with the pedals, it was more of turning over the crank for the pedals of the bicycle. If you want to do that and just cruise, nothing dramatic, no quick acceleration, not using a lot of fuel in the case of an automobile, well, guess what? That's what the higher gears are for. Now, this may seem overly simplistic. It may seem like common sense, but I encourage you, if you have any kind of a multi-speed bicycle, give that a try, because you can actually feel essentially what the engine is feeling. You can feel that resistance to change in a high gear where you're giving it the acceleration and you're not really getting anywhere. With an engine, that's called lugging the engine. Probably many of you have heard of that term, where there's low RPM, but you're trying to accelerate with a lot of force. Or if you're wanting that throw you back in the seat feeling, try first or second gear in one of those multi-speed bicycles, and you'll get an idea of how extremely easy it is on the engine to jolt you forward, but then you're not really getting anywhere for very long until you start upshifting, and you can find that sweet spot, that power band, as we call it with an engine, between the lower RPM, which for most gasoline engines is going to be a lower RPM anyhow, for that peak torque number, to top horsepower, which is going to be, generally speaking, a higher RPM. That difference, that's your power band. But you could read up more about that later. There's lots of other videos out there. So anyhow, thanks for listening to me talk about something that I am passionate about. And I will say one other thing, and that is that I saw a couple of interesting vehicles today when I was on my bike ride. I saw a Ford F-150 from, I would say, the early 90s that was parked in front of one of my neighbor's house. And it looks to me like it really is shorter in length than my Ford Maverick, because this Ford F-150 was the standard cab with the standard bed, not the long bed for the pickup, not a crew cab or extended cab or anything like that, just the standard cab and standard short bed. And I would say, like in my other video, that that truck is actually smaller in length than my Ford Maverick. And here, Ford F-150 used to be a full-size truck, but they ballooned in size. Very interesting. The other vehicle that I saw was a classic Porsche. It was a red Porsche with, I could tell by the sound, an air-cooled engine, and I don't know what year it was. I'm not extremely good at identifying Porsches, but I would say probably sometime in the 80s, maybe early 80s. And I was riding right by it. It was going the opposite direction on one of the neighborhood roads. So that was nice to see and to hear. So I appreciate those classic cars. Anyhow, keep having an awesome day, and I will see you all soon. Bye-bye for now.